Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. And for those who enjoy videos about Chinese pens, we have another. But this is not necessarily a focus on these particular pens, which I've done individual reviews on these a while ago. But it's really in celebration of my declaration of year of the nib. I got some of the custom nibs that Bobby has worked on. I got the Architect nib. Here's what it looks like on eBay. He has some excellent photography showing how the nib was ground. And that's in the yellow swirl PENBBS 323. For reference, this red 308 has the standard fine PENBBS nib. And just to round out being in reference, and also because I think it's a really beautiful pen, is the 323 with an oblique double broad Knox nib in it, just to kind of put it in perspective. So when I first put the Architect nib into this 323 and wrote with it, as soon as the nib touched paper, I was very pleased. I enjoyed the way that it felt. I enjoyed the line variations. I have one other Architect nib which was ground onto my Signum pen, and I enjoyed that nib and I enjoyed the grind, but I enjoy the grind on this one better. I think this one lends itself more to day-to-day writing, and when I talked about Architect nib, one of my viewers said it's more tuned, ground for doing lettering versus script. And I can definitely see that. We'll take a look at the writing samples. But it also works in almost any type of writing. And I got a nice shading ink in it, Robert Oster number 10 Dollar Green. And it works incredibly well. I'm going to try to see how the close-up looks on the camera. This is the ground nib. I think you can see how it's been done. It's a triangular shaped grind. So the vertical strokes are narrower than the horizontal strokes, and if you vary the pen, the angle in which the nib touches the paper, you can also make it finer as you're more vertical, and as you get more of an angle or put it closer to the paper, then it'll get a wider line. This is just a generic Iridium Point Nib. Again, it's more of a marketing term than an actual description of the tipping material. I've had some of these pens from Bobby before. I think they come from Taiwan, and I think they're great pens. They're a medium nib. They are a little bit on the soft side, so they really lend themselves to nice writing. They're number 6 size, so they'll fit in a lot of pens. I think it's good to take a look at this ground nib compared to the standard PENBBS nib. As you can see, there's a lot less tipping material in the PENBBS pen, but it does have that little upturn. It doesn't quite give that same line variation that you can get with the Architect grind, but it certainly is a smooth, consistent writing experience. And we'll see that when nib touches paper. So here's a look at the 3 pens that we looked at when they were capped, with 3 completely different nibs in them. And that's one of the other things that I love about the PENBBS pens, is that number 6 nib. There's a tremendous variety out there that you can swap in. The one down here is an oblique double broad from Knox, got from Birmingham Pens, and your standard PENBBS here in the red 308, and of course this wonderful ground Architect nib from Bobby. So one thing about the 323 is there's no clip, so it very easily rolls away. So it's something that if you're going to be using this on a desk, you're going to want to have some type of pen stand, maybe a type of thing you'd put chopsticks in. Another beautiful acrylic. and it's somewhat transparent. You can see that nib in there. It just is wonderful. The chatoyancy is beautiful. So the 323 is the one model that doesn't post, not designed to be posted. We'll just set that cap aside. But because of the design, it is very ergonomic. It's probably the most ergonomic pen of the group. Maybe the 267, which is the one that's kind of like a desk pen design, is also very ergonomic. And if I remember it right, it also doesn't post. But you can just kind of like gaze at the acrylic here for a while before you put nib to paper. But very, very comfortable, very light, great section. Let's see how the nib works. So you can get some very nice line variation. This ink just shades great. All the greens I have from Robert Oster have just a phenomenal shading to them. And this is no exception. This nib just feels great on the paper. He did a wonderful job, and I didn't have to do any tuning to it or anything. It just took it, I cleaned it off, which I do with every nib, washing it in a mild detergent solution with a little ammonia in it, and then rinse it with water and wipe it down. So there's talking about, is this a print style nib or is it for script? I would say both work equally well. You're not going to get a phenomenal amount of line variation to it, but this is an everyday writer, which you can't say about a lot of calligraphy style nibs or especially ground nibs. So that makes it good. And as I mentioned before, these PENBBS pens just put down a lot of ink. And this is just a wonderful green. So I think we need to compare to the standard PENBBS nib. It's actually smoother than the regular PENBBS nib, which is not an easy thing for a nib to do. This is Noodler's Burgundy, so you're not going to get any shading or anything else on it, but you know, it's just, this is a standard generic great nib. This just is a wonderful nib, and it may not come across in the writing as much as it comes across in the feel of the nib on the paper, the ability of manipulating with the minor amount of change to angle and pressure how it writes. And just for something completely different, we're going to show you what this oblique double broad looks like, which is one gushy wet nib. For those that enjoy wet nibs, this is certainly one that I would put on my list, and it's a number 6, so you can put it in a lot of different pens. I also have Bobby's flex nibs where he cut out some pieces on it, makes it look kind of like the Conklin flex nib and the Jovo flex nib and some of the other ones out there, but I have yet to really write with it enough to feel comfortable doing a video on it. I have to try it with a couple different feeds to feel that I've really done its justice. So we're on page 4 of my Fabriano pad with the nice little ink splotch coming through there. So for $10, which is what this nib costs, I think it's great. Yes, I've done great twice. And if you really want to do fine work, you just hold it vertical and you get a nice fine line. If you come down at an angle, you get kind of a medium to broad line, and you get kind of a medium line when you write at about the 45-degree angle that most people write with. So that's nice, but I think what really makes it nice for me is the way this nib feels on the paper. A lot of custom ground nibs can be a little sharp, but this one is not at all. The other thing is nice, you can see the way that feed is designed, that you can really go down pretty low on an angle here. Yeah, you can go pretty low and still get it to write, and you don't drag the feed. It's hard to do over the camera. So hopefully you've enjoyed this view of a nib, and just confirms my year of the nib prediction. So thank you for watching. May you have many phenomenal writing experiences and get an opportunity to enjoy the incredible variety out there when you take a look at all the different pens, nibs, inks, and papers. You could spend a lifetime and never really do much more than scratch the surface. So we've reached the end of this video. Until the next video, bye. Writing over the camera is a challenge, but it's a great greening.